I want to know how to make your energy level perfectly attuned to skyrocketing your success.
How do you mean?
Like even when things are shit.
What do you mean?
I mean, if something goes wrong, right? Something pisses you off, things like that probably happen more often than not if you're trying to grow a business. Especially the bigger you're trying to grow it, the more bullshit probably starts happening, right? Or potentially. I don't know. I haven't grown my business to a huge level yet.
So, if I understand correctly, you're asking how do I maintain composure emotionally and mentally when going through hard times in business and life?
Yeah, but there's more to it than just maintaining composure. What about, okay, how do we just compound everything? You know, some people, they take their business from 50K to 500K, things like that. What do you think they're doing that's different to...
You're asking how they're scaling their business financially, and then the first question was more about emotionally. Now, in terms of emotion, what I find is that the more you're capable of removing and detaching yourself from the outcome of any situation, the more ready you are to bounce back from a mistake. And so if you are connected to the outcome and the outcome is negative, of course, it's going to bring you down, and therefore you're going to be less incentivized and less motivated to grow from where you are. And that's not the game. You want to get into the mode of being able to habitually detach yourself. And I know this can take time, especially if you are generally an emotional person or you have a lot of capacity for feeling emotion. You're generally going to feel upset if something goes wrong, and you're going to blame yourself, and it's potentially going to reduce the likelihood of you bouncing back anytime soon. And that time frame that you spend sort of getting over it, healing from it, or whatever, is time that you're getting away from the business where you can grow. And so because you're blaming yourself, you're actually reducing the chances of you
making a good next decision.
Exactly. You need to you need to force the habit, because you're either doing a good habit or a bad habit. And I truly believe that. I don't think there's an in-between. You either have every single habit in your life is either good or bad. It's rarely an in-between, subjectively. And so if you can train yourself, train your neurons to only detach and not blame yourself for things that go wrong in the business, and just accept that business is always going to go wrong, accept that's a norm, a normal standard, that's a hygiene standard, then none of this should really disappoint you. Okay? Now I get it. If you completely lose the business and you're wiped out, that could be a different story. But you know what? I nearly got wiped out by putting all my savings into stupid crypto coins that I just don't know why I did that. Now, most people in that situation, like I said, probably would have felt suicidal, because that's all of their life savings gone like that. Instead, what did I do? I said, wow, that's so stupid, and the pain of that means I will never do that again. And so that gave me a higher level of wisdom, a higher level of confidence to go out there and tell other people who are going to do the same thing, don't do that. That's so stupid. You're lucky you have all this money to play with. Now work on a business where you can build real skills, real transferable skills. You can't do that in investing in these stupid coins that you cannot even control the outcome of.
It's almost like the bigger you mess up, the more pain that generates, the more success as an outcome.
Sometimes and sometimes not. And it depends on the person. If you are the type of person that uses pain to drive you, which by the way, a lot of people think is very unhealthy, I actually think it's great. I think if pain can drive you, then you should use that and leverage that to your advantage. And so if you have a chip on your shoulder because you don't feel good enough, use that energy, because you're going to need it. You're going to need so much volume of energy to do these major things in life. How can you expect to have average results from average stimuli? You need something to be so incredibly intense that pushes you, to drive you to do these crazy things. I myself I don't think I would even look to make millions or whatever. I'd be happy with 100K, 200K. Had it not been for certain situations in my life that pushed me over the edge and made me feel like, okay, no, I need to do this for myself, for my own sanity, I need to do it. And so if I didn't have that stimuli, I don't think and I think most of the people who do these amazing feats, that they achieve crazy things in their businesses and whatever in life, I think it's because they've gone through situations that are so intense, maybe so painful, that it drives them over the edge to the point where they achieve great things. And I think there's a saying for this, what about in chemistry, like without enough pressure, you know, like you're not going to create new molecules and new whatever.
Hit an activation energy.
To make like diamonds, like it's carbon molecules. You're gonna need so much pressure to create something amazing.
Fine.
You understand? And so, regarding emotional stability, I think with experience, the more you fail and the more you win as a direct outcome, the more you can look back and say, you know what, I failed 1,000,000 times, but I won so many times that I actually look forward to failing now. So you train your brain to see it like this. But in the beginning of your journey, especially when you're at school, you're in a 9 to 5, they train you to think that failure is bad. And they're doing the opposite of what business does. The reason why this probably came easier to me is because I didn't even go into a job. I just went straight from uni and straight into business. And so that's all I've ever known. All I've ever known is fail until you make it. Whereas with a lot of my counterparts who are in jobs and 9 to 5s, they're always thinking, oh, but I'm scared, but what if this doesn't go right? And what if I lose this 2K and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And this is all a mentality that's been driven into them by their upbringing, by their environment, by the school they went to. Because if you get a C grade or a D grade or an E grade or whatever, you're failing. And people judge you. And the students around you will be like, oh, you're stupid. And your parents will be upset. And you then realize, oh, shit, I can't fail. And although that could be a good thing in one way, because it means that you actually take the thing seriously, hopefully, ideally, it's a terrible thing in business because you will fail. It's guaranteed because no one is telling you what to do. In business, most of the time, you are making the dots and the connections yourself. And so by definition, you are going to fail because you've never done it. So you will be shit in the beginning, by definition, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I see how the difference at school makes things really hard if you're trying to set up a business, because every failure you do then sets you up for a negative perception of that failure, and then you're very, very unlikely to try moving again if in business you fail the first time, right? Even at my corporate job, I had the business attitude while I was at the corporate job, and every time I made a mistake, everyone would scream at me. The director would be like, this is the most shocking thing I've ever seen. But actually, the direct result of what I did was things actually improved quicker because I failed and showed everyone like what the failure was. But that was heavily frowned upon. But as a result of that, things actually got solved faster. So that's why I quit my corporate job anyway. And I know you didn't get the experience of a corporate job really, but they're very, very accident conscious in these jobs because everyone's looking to get promoted. Everyone's looking to make that next rung up. And everyone's watching you, and it's just like this kind of mafia game, but you got to play it the right way if you want to go up fast. I had no fucking idea until I read a book called The Mafia Manager, which is it's like 70 pages long. It's basically a comedic take on what it takes to get promoted at one of these corporate jobs.
I've never heard of that book. That's literally the first time I've heard. That sounds really cool. Mafia Manager.
Yeah, you'd probably find it. You probably already used everything in that book in your current business, to be honest. but yeah, it basically tells you, you know, what to say to your boss, why you should say these kind of things to your boss, what you need to do at work to look like you're doing well when you don't actually need to do a good job at work to get
That sounds
promoted.
like most 9 to 5s.
I mean,
no offense to anyone on LinkedIn, just saying. Yeah.
No offense to the, I don't know, what is it, like 4 billion people using the link? Oh, it's probably like closer to 2 billion. Yeah, people using LinkedIn right now. But yeah, so all I can take from that experience is when I quit, I started making mistake after mistake after mistake. You were like telling me, what the fuck are you doing? In fact, you said, why don't you go into SMMA, which I tried. Yeah, I fucked up at that for about 3 to 6 months and then got my first client. And since then I've had about 150. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Nice. You're working at KPMG,
Yeah.
and you had a pretty high role. And so to see that corporate sort of an entrepreneurial thinker in a very corporate, like stable, fixed black and white role with like no out of the box thinking. I love that story, you know, like somebody going from there and leaving. It's very similar to mine, you know, like I was in a med school, I was going to become a doctor and do all of these things. And so all of this by the book stuff. And I was always questioning everything. I was thinking, but why is everyone doing this? Like, isn't this better? Isn't this a better way of doing it? And I think I've questioned everything since I was a kid. And I noticed the amount of people in an authoritative position who would look back at me in shock and wonder, why are you even asking that? Which just shows me how limited their mindset is. And actually, I really feel like if I see now a kid and they ask certain questions, I can literally predict the likelihood of them doing some entrepreneurial endeavor in the future because of the questions that they ask. You know, these are very logical questions, but people are scared to ask them because it's questioning the status quo. You know, like it's questioning society, it's questioning everything around them, and most people are scared to do that because they want to follow, they want to be seen as accepted. And I really believe that a lot of people say they want to be an entrepreneur, and it's like such a cool label and everything, but if you really truly want that, you have to have massive balls, so much energy to question everything and just go on despite everyone telling you it's not possible, you can't do it, because no one ahead of you has really done the thing. So few people have. So you have to create your own momentum. You have to create your own path, your own journey.
Your own even way of thinking, right?
Exactly. And when things go downhill, because they will so many times, you have to bring yourself back up. You got to be your own therapist, you got to be your own driver, your own coach, your own motivator. You got to be resourceful, you got to go find your own things. Every time things go wrong, you need to be able to hold composure. You got to be able to hire the right person. You got to even know what the right person possesses. You have to have the authority, you have to have the people skills to be able to build relationships and network with everyone. All of these things are going to go downhill. You're always going to make a mistake in every single one of these avenues. That's why people don't want to take this role. They just see the things on YouTube and online, like, oh my God, this looks so cool. And then they put a little tag, business owner, bro, you're nothing. You fucking nothing. This is a hard game. 5% of businesses make it past like 50K after a year or 100K or something like that. That's a stupidly low number. That's really low for the right people. And that's all they've ever known, and they're very competitive and like, you know, they're driven and they won't accept no for an answer. These type of people, for them, it's normal to go and blow through these numbers. But most people don't think like that. And I think that they need a real reality check. And so failure is a good thing. You need to train your brain. Failure is a good thing.
A lot of those people that think about starting businesses actually look at that statistic and care about it a lot, right? So it's like, oh wait, there's a 95% chance I'll fail. And they look at that as opposed to just going and starting, right? And it's like, they'll just think about that 95% thing and just, all right, I'm done. I'm not even going to start. And that probably puts a lot of people off. I never even looked at that stat. I just started doing stuff that worked, I guess. And I just kept on trying to focus on what worked.
I really feel like a lot of people that do well in business, it often began because they had no other choice. When they're too comfortable, their parents have a lot of money and their rent is paid or whatever, and like they already have a nice job and they're very stable, this and that. I find that the drive to really go and then take that massive risk and, you know, start something big out of nothing, it diminishes drastically. And that's why so many smart people will be comfortable at 100K, 120K, 150K, whatever, and that's fine.
You're
know,
talking
like
a year?
I'm just saying, like per year. And these people are extremely bright. You know, like they could have been, they're doctors, they're barristers, lawyers, bankers, whatever. They have the intelligence to make it work, but sometimes that can work against you, because I actually believe that you need a very unique balance of intelligence and stupidity in order to make business work. And this is not like a way of, I'm not looking down at anyone when I say this, because even me, although I believe that I had enough intelligence to make it work, I also had enough stupidity, or sorry, maybe stupidity is the wrong word.
Naivety, maybe.
Delusionalness. I feel like you need to have enough delusional ability, or delusionalness, whatever the word is, that you are willing to just go balls to the wall despite the intelligence. And I find these are very contradictory characteristics. You're either very intelligent or very delusional. And it's like, you need to have the right amount. It's like, it's almost like
right brain, left brain.
50-50. I think that's a good balance. But what I find is most of the intelligent people that go into these academic careers as, you know, doctors, barristers, lawyers, whatever, it's like they're like 90 intelligence, 10 delusional.
They do
or
everything,
less delusional.
They do everything by the book.
Exactly. And then there's a massive problem when you're 80% delusional, 90% delusional, which is, you know, so many people out there, they think that, oh yeah, I can do this and I can do that, and then have absolutely no bearing on reality.
No way to back it up.
Like, they think that things will just happen for them, and then they start crying like, oh, I can't do it. This is retarded. You need to have a balance. And when you have that, It's such a beautiful combination because it means that although you believe that something is unlikely to happen or maybe
You
not
still push
possible
through.
anytime, you'll
Yeah.
be like, look, there is a chance and someone has done it and it is very like it can be done within three to 4 months. Yeah, I might lose 3, 4, 5K, but I could make 100. And that's the delusional that you need. It's actually not too crazy if you think about it. It's really not crazy.
No, it's actually very
people will
rational.
go to you. You know what I think is delusional? It's people going to university, going to school, and studying things, and paying 100 grand, 150K for all of this tuition, to result in potentially no job. That's
Yeah.
real delusion. I think they're taking the biggest risk. But you see how
an interesting way of looking at it, yeah.
everyone is schooled into thinking that you got to go to school and uni and then da-da-da, and if you don't do this, then your parents will be unhappy. And it's like, if you can't even question your parents, how the hell are you going to question society? How the hell are you going to get over these humps? You know?
It's an interesting point, and it seems like there's different levels of this delusion, as you mentioned. There's like Elon Musk, he's delusional, but he works his damn ass off for 20 hours a day. So he's like more the 50-50 type guy, because he'll just non-stop work and aim for the moon. And then there's guys like Billy McFarland. I don't know if you know who that is. He set up Fire Festival, basically got tons of celebrities to this island, blew it up, raised like 2 million, and then we found out he was partying off half that money. He couldn't even set up the tents for like people like Justin Bieber or whatever. So yeah, he was an example of someone who's more like 80% delusional, 20% backing, and he ended up nearly going to jail, and even going to jail, I think. So yeah, what you're saying is stay somewhere between Billy McFarland and Elon Musk, probably, so you're not too worried about things going wrong, but worried enough that you can make things go right, in a sense.
Agreed, yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, in terms of what do you think is the future of AI?
Oof, man, AI is beautifully dangerous. And not in a bad way, potentially. If I had to put a bet on it, I would say by 2033, 2034, we have a dangerous chance of military robots. 2033, military robots turning against humanity somewhere in the world. I believe there will be an incident in this kind of way, okay? And that's not far. That's 8 years away. This is possible now, but I believe that it will actually be uncovered at some point publicly within 8 years. Realistically, this could be like more likely between 2030 to 2033. And the reason the reason why is because right now I think these type of things are, although it's possible right now, they're under much more stricter control. But as they gain knowledge and learn human behaviors and think for themselves,
maybe as less developed countries get access to
exactly,
this
and as more and more tensions grow between countries and they're looking for advantages on how to beat another country in war on whatever, and the AI race continues, it's inevitably going to lead to something ridiculous and crazy like iRobot or whatever. Have as much fun as it until then and make the most of life before before something happens. Can you be more specific? In what context?
I mean, everyone loves being generic about AI, but I mean, I understand AI from a very technical perspective, having done maths at uni and AI modules and whatnot. But let's go down one branch of it, maybe at the workplace, for things like recruiting. How do you think it's going to impact the recruiting industry or hiring personnel?
Well, I think with agentic AI, you can just tell the AI agent to go and find a perfect client based on the information you've given it, and you'll give it an example. You'll feed it 30 to 40, and then you'd find 30 to 40 perfect clients and perfect, if you're doing both sides, you're finding the employer and you're finding the candidate. And then you would show them, this is a perfect client, and this is how much they'll pay us, and this is a perfect candidate, and this is their resume. And so then they will go do your job in like a million times quicker, find out everything, match them together, do the chat between the candidate, come up with a deal with the client, get the deal done. What do you think that's going to do to real people and their jobs? I think that business owners are going to get rid of the people that they're hiring and save on costs dramatically, because they know that they can rely on this type of AI, ideally, right, in an ideal world.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because obviously an AI could essentially do all those tasks, and I think companies are already using AI to do those tasks. There was one company, I think it was Klarna, it had a customer service team of about 3,000 people, a banking fintech. And what that fintech did is they got rid of all 3,000 customer service people and just got chatbots in.
That's ruthless. And you know
Yeah,
what? It doesn't even
savage.
surprise me. I was saying this 2 years ago when I implemented AI into my business, and it's literally as simple as I was one of the first people to do it in my business sector because I noticed that other people doing this online weren't using it. And so everybody I questioned, even the owners of these new AI platforms I was giving them info on what to do to improve as one of their first users. And it's really good. Like I was so surprised. I was like, wow, like it's responding on its own accord. It's like it's knowing what to say. It's following the instructions I've given it. However, obviously things will improve with time. So it will only get better. And every single business will have this, where a human being can be replaced. It will be replaced. It just will, because people are looking to save costs, save money, have more reliability. Because remember, it's not just about being better. It's that reliability factor. And humans are infallible. They're not perfect. You know, they might be drunk on a Friday night and therefore not turn up for whatever work on Saturday.
Until 3
da-da-da.
p.m. Yeah.
Speaking from experience with the people that I hire. So, and that's why I'm so keen on this type of technology improving. I really believe you can protect yourself against being removed from industries because of AI by having something physical, by owning the asset, something physical. You can use AI to assist you and use that online technology to assist you, but then own the physical asset, and therefore you're still getting some kind of profit or appreciation or whatever. You know what I mean? Whereas if the service you're giving is purely online and there's no physical aspect of the delivery, then, you know, maybe I'm wrong. I haven't actually thought about this. You know, I'm sure there's examples to everything, but I'm just thinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's a very diverse topic because there's so many ways you can use the actual AI, and there's so many different AI systems you can actually implement. So people get in this kind of rut of which one do I choose and what do I do with it? And there's so many that kind of do the same thing, and then everyone copycats each other, and everyone has this hiring system which sounds amazing, and then in theory, does it apply to your specific business circumstances? I don't know, maybe, because you know you have a certain type of employee that you want to hire. Maybe it's not going to find that type of employee because you don't like talking to the AI in this way. So I know companies, they're having a hard time maybe doing what Klarna did, because Klarna actually brought people back after they fired them, by the way. So they didn't end up using the AI for the long term.
Why's that?
Or that the AI didn't have enough of that personal effect on people, and people didn't feel listened to or heard enough from the sound of it. So it's not here to stay as such, but it's definitely improving, and eventually it will hit the point where everyone loves to say that it's going to hit the point where it's going to replace everyone, but everyone clearly wants a human to talk to them, for example, in customer service. So how do we get around the problem of the fact people don't like being listened to? Maybe there's some kind of one person managing a team of AI customer service agents that can maybe flip in between them and say what to say in certain situations when a customer's unhappy, right? So I think it's the combination, the hybrid of AI and a human being. I think other business owners have cited this, successful ones. They basically say that all AI should do is amplify what a human being can already do, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
So I think as long as people have got a practical use case for it, yeah, like Klarna did, but then it failed, which is not a big deal. They'll probably figure it out and do it again in future or something. But yeah, I think in terms of scaling, how do you think AI could take your business, for example, by 10x? Is there anything that could be scaled right now that's generating the most profit that an AI could be brought in?
Yeah, of course. I think if I could hire an AI expert right now, I would do it instantly, okay? And that would be, I would tell them, hey, go and train the AI to go and find the ideal client, and then I'd ask them to go and find ways to reduce costs in the business, and then I'd ask it to go and improve the marketing, change the ads, improve the ads based on, you know, proven
literally
metrics
one
that you've seen.
sentence orders and it goes and execute.
Change the website. Where can we improve the business? It would do a full audit on your business. I would ask it to constantly go through previous clients to go and see if we can upsell them or bring them back and make more money and lifetime revenue from each customer in the past. I'd make them go find ways to do customer surveys to find how can we improve. Honestly, every single department, from the sales to the marketing to the hiring to the HR, it can all be improved. Whatever normal role a director or manager would have,
That's a lot of things that you suggested that it could do to improve, which basically gives a lot of opportunity. And then I guess what makes it even better is if it could actually execute on those improvements that it's figured out by itself.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I guess that's why Sam Altman says that there's a potential for one person to build a unicorn, which is, you know, a $1 billion company, because they can probably just implement that process that you've just said. So maybe there's ways we can figure out how to do it. I have a friend who runs a successful business in Y Combinator, and he's basically researching this stuff every single day, every spare minute of the day. He's trying to figure out how to do that with his AI, because obviously, you know, he's probably making good revenue right now, but he can figure out how to make maybe 10x, 100x.
Yeah.
He's probably looking for that, I don't know, how do you call it, unicorn scenario, so to speak. And it might just hit him, I don't know. But I think if he thinks about these concepts like you do, maybe there's a chance.
What are the top 3 traits you look for in a long-term relationship?
Okay, good question. I would look for loyalty. I'd look for humility and accountability. And the reason why is because I feel like these 3 offer some of the best combination for a entrepreneurial person, because, you know, entrepreneurs tend to have quite difficult lives, a lot of unexpected hours, and that can create friction in a relationship with somebody who's not used to it. And so if your partner isn't used to this and they're wondering, why are you doing work at 10 p.m. when you should be, you know, cuddling with me and watching Netflix and whatever, like a good boyfriend, you know? So then this is because they have misaligned expectations and they don't understand your life. And that could be because you haven't prompted them from the get-go in the beginning to give them the correct expectations. And so it's 50-50. It's not just them not understanding, it's because you haven't given them that indication, or you may have missold or omitted this information in the beginning. And so if you know that you live a slightly abnormal lifestyle because of the business that you do, the work that you do, you need to let your partner know, especially if you know that they have certain expectations. And so I really believe that the loyalty aspect is also major fundamental, because you need your partner to stick with you and back you and support you when you go through these hard times. You don't want a partner that's going to leave you when they feel like, oh, he's not making money. And so you have to make sure that you are choosing somebody, and this will take experience. You know, you got to go through some bad eggs to really know when someone is loyal and reliable and can stick with you despite these down moments. Okay? And so you want to make sure that they don't go against you. They don't stab you in the back, especially when business and entrepreneurship is already hard enough. You don't need another liability in your life to make it more difficult. Most people feel like they cannot be alone and they need someone to feel complete. But actually, this can only ruin you if you are with the wrong person. And so you got to be doubly sure that if you're going, it's just like hiring. You're better off working alone than hiring the wrong person, because the wrong person can go use the business against you, take business secrets from you, drain your energy, take all the information and compete against you, and essentially destroy your business, sell your secrets. All sorts of things can happen. So you have to make sure that you're choosing correctly. They are very much the same thing. You are looking for loyalty and good characteristics. You want to choose somebody when you hire in a business, someone that you can talk to on a level, honestly, deep down. You can even have fun with, hang out with. You ideally want somebody like that, right? Otherwise, if the vibe is completely off and different, how's it going to work in business? You know? And so you need to do that in a relationship. The same thing. You're going to make sure the vibe is there. Otherwise, if the vibe is completely off, you guys will just be misaligned in all your expectations. And so that's loyalty, okay? Humility. I don't know if you've been through relationships where your partner has no humility, but this is so crucial, because if they've done something wrong, and they don't own up, it means that they're not willing to ever take accountability, and they will always point fingers, and therefore you will always be the one to blame for their mistakes, for their cock-ups. If you hired somebody, I always compare it to this because it's such a good metaphoric way for you to understand the situation. Because with business, there's very little judgment. It's black and white. You're paying them, and then you don't pay them. You fire them. Now, in a relationship, it's very much subjective, and oh no, it's because of you. You didn't take out the trash. You're good enough. You don't go to the gym. You don't look after me. You don't love me enough. You don't care about me. You prioritize blah, 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 blah. And because there's no contract per se, a lot of the people in this who are the entrepreneur can feel tricked because they feel like guilt. They feel guilt when their partner tells them that this is the reason why, because there's no contract, and so they're only inclined to feel like maybe their partner is telling the truth, and so that could really affect their mentality and their headspace, because their judgment is clouded because of love and affection for their partner.
They think that the partner's telling the truth.
And this will drag them down in business, and their energy levels
Down and
drastically
down
drop. The thing is, that person, because they're going down in this negative spiral, it will affect everything around them and bring the relationship down further into turmoil. And that's why it pays to have the wisdom to understand what a good partner, a healthy partner is, someone who's going to be supportive. And remember, not everyone is supportive of your goals. They're not.
Would you ever go back to an ex?
This is a difficult question. It would be very hard for me to be able to believe that people can change, because I think very few people can change. I think a lot of people are stuck in their ways. Unless forced. And because a lot of these exes will have so many options out there that will just do whatever they say, you know, it's very hard for them to change because they have so many options. And I think if you remove all of these options, it makes things so much easier for them to actually follow the line and follow the rules and stick to an agreement. And that's why when people are applying for jobs, I really believe that if they don't have all of these options, they're way more likely to stick to the contract, because they don't want to lose their job. And that's why so many people are scared to lose their job. Because if I use men as an example, say, I don't know, Bob is the breadwinner in the family, and he's got his job, and that pays for the bills for the wife and the kids and whatever. Now Bob knows that maybe if he lost his job, there is no income in the family. And then the wife may lose interest because, you know, they're going to complain and say, look, you know, you're too lazy and you're not doing this and you're not doing that. Now, again, I'm not speaking on anyone that I know. I'm just giving you an example. It could be Sally. It could be Sally that's the breadwinner, and Bob is super lazy and just watching football and drinking beer. And Sally's going to be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I'm bringing this money. And then imagine if Sally loses her job. And then Bob's like, what the hell?
Causes more argument.
And so you need someone that's not only supportive, but has the humility to know that they are also in the wrong. It's never really one-sided. It's nearly always two-sided. And so if they have that humility, which you need, by the way, as a business owner, you need humility to take accountability. If you don't take accountability, you'll blame everyone else. If you blame everyone else, you'll never fix the problem. But if you take account, and that's why I really believe entrepreneurship is so beautiful, because it grows you. You are growing as a person because you blame yourself. And when you blame yourself, you take accountability and fix it because you know you're responsible. Even if it's someone else that created the cock up, ultimately you have to take responsibility because you allowed that person to undertake that task. You entrusted that person. You hired them. You believed they were capable and you were wrong. And so ultimately you take the hit because it's your business. Do you understand? Now they will let you take the hit.
If they're the wrong kind of person.
Correct. And this happens so often because a lot of people don't have strong boundaries and they're clouded by love. And listen, I'm not infallible to this. I'm saying this happens to everyone. It happens to the best of us. But once you go through it and compare it to your business life, and you're like, wow, it's crazy how business gives me so much clarity and wisdom, especially when you're doing well in business or you're going through good times. It gives you the clarity to see how did you fix these problems in business, in your team, in hiring, in firing, in looking for loyalty, humility, accountability, and whatever. And if you look at most resumes and people that are hiring, they're actually looking for these things: humility, accountability, loyalty, honesty, all of these things. And so you need the same thing in a partner, okay?
Makes sense.
Now, here's the funny thing. If someone has too many choices, their attitude often will change. If someone is very rich and they can just replace them, they'll just replace it. And so their attitude will change. They maybe won't fight for the same thing as much.
Almost the illusion of choices as well. Sometimes it's not necessary.
Exactly. And the same thing with dating apps, okay? I really truly believe that since dating apps have come on, a lot of people who may, not have looked after themselves because they have all of these editing apps that can edit how they look, make them more confident than they actually are because they're getting way more attention than they actually would on a street in real life. Because of this illusion of choice, it creates a unrealistic perception of reality and therefore gives you an unrealistic perception of what you are capable of getting, and therefore you may start asking for different things from a partner. And then obviously in reality, when the expectations don't align, that person then gets disappointed and sad and believes that they are worthless, and then again creates a negative spiral. So how we got onto this topic, the point I'm trying to make is, sometimes it can be good if used correctly, because it can remove desperation from you, but at the same time, if you have too many options, it can actually negatively affect you.
I mean, it's a lack of focus, isn't it? If you've got all these good options, or they may look good, but you haven't actually gone down that path, so you think that you've got loads of good options, but actually in actual fact you don't. You may bypass things that would have been better for you in the long run, but looked like that candy in the short run. So you go for maybe a shiny object in the short term, and then I think a lot of people fall for that trap, maybe in these short-term relationships, which I think is more prevalent in today's society, which is fine. Everyone likes to have fun, and I guess there's no real reason to build a family in the modern world anymore as such. But that leads to things like population decline, and as a result, immigration, and low quality immigration potentially, which then leads to, you know, just a country's economy going down, and then, I mean, at the extreme, collapse of society. So you could actually see the input as dating apps, algorithms are designed to bring down society. If you want to go all the way down the food chain, people may not like the fact I'm saying that, but it also leads to, that lack of clarity if you've got too many options. So I mean, as a side tangent, if you've got a lot of options, what do you think the best thing to do is? Because obviously, let's say not just in dating, but in business or in opportunities or whatever you're doing, let's say you've reached this level where you've got 10 things going on that you could choose from. How do you trim the fat and then just pick one or two and go with those?
I really truly believe that if you're being honest to yourself, there is absolutely no way in hell that every single one of these 10 things that you're doing are to the same extent, to the same ability, that leads to the same results, to the same success. You're lying to yourself. In fact, it shows a lack of knowledge, it shows a lack of wisdom. If you're lying to yourself, how can you trust yourself like this? So if you deeply sit down and make a table about all of the pros and cons of every single thing and ascertain a score out of 10 for every variable that you're looking at, all the metrics that matter to you, whether that be how much money can you make in the next 3 years, what is the freedom looking like in the next 3 years, what's your geography looking like in the next 3 years, where can you live, what are the advantages and the benefits of such a business, how much capital is required up front. I believe that every single one of these 10 things will be different. And if they're not, it means that you just haven't even looked into them properly and you're not even ready to start, okay? And so I really truly think that if you can then come up with a score for every one of these 10 things, one of them will have the highest score, even if it's just by 2-3 percentage points. You need to go for that one, okay? Now, the longer you spend getting to that step, the less and less likely you are to ever start, because I've been through this and I can tell you that when you have too much choice, you never begin.
Analysis paralysis.
And you need to cut that shit down. And this is with everything. It's the same thing as having too many potential partners. It's highly unlikely you're going to stay loyal, because you're just thinking about all of the inequalities in your current person and all the defects and characteristics that you don't like and whatever, and you're always going to be comparing and this is what leads to divorces, unhappy relationships. I believe it goes both ways, but at the same time I really think that ultimately this is a human thing. It's not even about which gender, in my opinion. I really think that the person that has the most choice is the most likely to not take it seriously enough, or to not make it the first fuck up. You're not going to try and fix it. And this is something that if you have the wisdom to see ahead of time, if you're on the opposing end, the victim, so to speak, it can really save you so much heartache when you could see this coming. Because you can already see, okay, you know what? I believe that this person has way too much choice and they're always going to be comparing me to this and this and this. And it could well be that this person means well. For example, you have a parent with very high standards, or a sibling with high standards, or even a partner that brings you up. And they're comparing you to what you could be. Now, this is a very different way of looking at it, because they're not comparing it to other people. They're comparing it to what you could be, because they see the potential in you. I think this is very healthy. You could do this with your partner and say, look, I know you could do better than this. I know you're better than this. I know you don't need to be doing this stuff. Now, if your partner takes it the wrong way constantly because they have a victim mentality, this is dangerous for your relationship, because they will always compare everything and never take accountability. And this is super dangerous.
Oftentimes men
when they're like in a situation that's bad and they usually solve it, they're like, I'm a man, you know, I'm going to solve this. But, you know, a lot of the time, women, I guess, get things taken care of for them. So oftentimes a woman feeling like a victim, they're not going to be that self-reflective. So I guess what you're saying is look for a partner that is going to be self-reflective, despite the fact that there's tons of victim mentality going on in the world right now. I think more than ever, right, with the rise of a lot of things in this modern day era. So I know that dates back to the Greco-Roman times, when the Greco-Romans were this group of people that looked at things as if they were the best. They thought about themselves in this context of, we're going to do good, we're the greatest, we're doing great. And then there's this other context of people, it was more the Christians that came in, and everything was more victimized at that point. So modern society has taken this Christian view of like, let's help the victim's always right. So this is how people get attention in the modern day era. And I think that is letting society down very much at this point. So yeah, back to the victim mentality of a relationship, people should just fix themselves.
Yeah, I mean, look, it goes both ways. Again, it's not a gender-based thing. I think a lot of people will feel like a victim at every single opportunity to grow. And this is the same thing in you know, like people in a 9-to-5 job and wanting to start a business. They will always have this sort of victim mentality, thinking like, I'm not good enough and da da da, and you know, they said this about me and that's why they won't go to the gym and da da da. Look, I really believe that so many problems in your life will be solved the moment you start taking accountability, and there's a huge correlation between the more accountability you take and the more problems get resolved in your life. And therefore, the more problems you resolve because you are accountable and responsible for every single thing, the more serious you will take every single issue and try and resolve it to your maximum effort. You know what I mean? So I really believe a lot of things and a lot of people are predictable based on how accountable they behave. You can predict so many problems. If you have the wisdom, you can see through it.
Accountability helps a lot. I try and implement it in my business, where an employee does something, they check in, they report it. Every time they've done it, the SOP is written out clearly for them of how to report it. And I've only just started doing this so that whenever something gets done, I can know that it gets done to the full ability that it should have got done. And if it doesn't, I can say, why didn't you do that? Do it. And it's more or less a straightforward process. There's no like confusion of the expectations at that point. So yeah, accountability is a big one. I think it's what keeps people going to the gym, you know, after their maybe January reset, you know, the whole new year, new me bullshit. Having an accountability partner is probably a good idea to have at that point, not just holding yourself accountable, because discipline is great, but it doesn't really seem to work, not at least with me, if there's not some kind of forcing function around it that keeps the process going. How do you find a good quality partner when you're very busy?
This is an age-old question, and it's such a good thing. I really, truly believe that there are 3 things in life that are super important, and that's finding a right partner, so relationships, love, health, and wealth, so finances. Okay. And these are the 3 main areas that I believe that you need to work on if you really want to improve your life to the max and be as happy as possible. Because ultimately you want to be happy, right? There's no point of having these things and not being happy. But usually by definition, by having these 3 things to a high abundance, you're going to be happy, right?
What's your happiness on a scale of 1 to 10?
Do you know, I don't think it's ever going to be 10, but at the same time, I like to think that I'm actually quite happy because I'm on a journey. And as long as I'm on a journey of self-development and I continuously push myself to grow and to learn from my mistakes, I'm always going to be in a perpetual state of 7+ happiness. At least I like to think so. In terms of how to find a high quality partner, this is such a good question. Most of my peers would typically find a partner by going out to clubs, bars, you know, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying if you hold yourself to a very high standard and you work super hard and you want to create a business out of nothing and you're very ambitious, you probably expect abnormal results, and therefore you need to have abnormal surroundings or stimuli in your life. Just like with diamonds, with enough pressure you can create something amazing, and that's a diamond. And so if you look at that as a metaphor for how you should be living your life, maybe that could mean that you have to work out super early or super late. Maybe that means no drinking on the weekends. Maybe that means you're taking all these sacrifices and not going to all of these different holidays and going out to party and whatever, and missing out on all of these opportunities to meet different people. When you have all of these expectations of yourself because you have such high ambitions for what you want to achieve in life, it means that you also probably look for a particular type of partner that is accepting of this lifestyle, okay? And I know this is going to be hard to hear for a lot of people, but I feel like a lot of people are just getting with each other because of initial lust or the wrong characteristics. They're looking for the wrong thing, and maybe they just hooked up in some nightclub and whatever, and maybe one of them a few weeks later decides to then hook up with someone else, and then the first person who meant well gets really upset and feels really betrayed. But you know, there are ways you can avoid this, because remember, if you're meeting in this type of environment, and you're hooking up in this type of environment, what's to stop your partner from doing it again? Or even you from doing it again on your partner, right? And so no one's perfect, but you can minimize the chances of such things happening by going to places where the type of person that you'd meet has different priorities. Maybe they also, like you, don't want to go out drinking and getting wasted every weekend and getting hungover and wasting their whole Sunday, because time for them, it means a lot more. Maybe their time is super important, just as you are if you are a serious entrepreneur. And so maybe you should be looking for this type of counterpart. And where would you find them? Potentially you'd find them in some, I don't know,
library.
That might meet them at some business networking event, okay? Maybe you might meet them at a library, they're reading books, they're trying to improve their knowledge or something. Maybe you might meet them at some yoga class, they're trying to improve their health. Or maybe you're meeting them in some kind of other romantic setting. Now, this is a difficult one. The romantic setting could be literally anywhere. You could be on a street, in a library, it could be anywhere. But I just believe that at least as long as you avoid the red flag areas like clubs and maybe potentially some bars or whatever, where people are just drinking and intoxicated, and so the fundamental reason why they even did something could be because they're just looser because they're intoxicated, and so maybe they wouldn't even typically go for you or be that attracted to you if had they been sober and fully aware of what they're doing. That's why I don't think this is a good place to meet the right person. If you are a serious person that wants to grow in life, you need someone that understands you. It's highly likely that the type of people that are going out, getting wasted every single weekend, have very little in terms of similar shared interests. You're probably all about self-development and stoicism and self-growth, reading these types of books and taking sacrifices and working hard and being ambitious and learning about business and all of these things that requires a lot of sacrifice. And they're probably about quick pleasure, you know, whether that's smoking, maybe taking drugs, or staying out till like 9 a.m. because, you know, there's nothing really good being achieved after 2 a.m. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time because you're affecting your day the next day. And so if you're affecting your day and you're okay with that, it means you don't value your time. If you don't value your time, imagine how much time they're going to waste on you, because they will assume that you have the same time frame as them. And probably, even if they realize that your time may be more important or you value your time, they will be upset because you will make them feel bad about themselves. And so they will try and bring you down potentially to make themselves feel better. Is that somebody you want to be with? Not really, you know? I sound like a relationship coach, but I promise you I'm not. I've just seen different things. And in terms of finding a right partner, I really think that going to these wholesome places to find them. And you know, usually the best partners are not the ones that look like the most amazing in a dress or whatever, and like blah 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 and all this glitz and glam. Like, the best partners are
They're fun though.
Honestly, like, the best partners are usually a steady going somebody that really cares and loves for you, and someone probably that you're not like super like lustful over. Like, these are usually the best.
Yeah, I mean, sounds great. I think, yeah, from what you're saying, it's good to find the longevity in scenarios in general. I guess not just relationships, business relationships, all kinds of relationships that you have, and looking in the right places for these kinds of people that are going to augment your life,